You use it to do the simple calculations and complex calculations. For example, if you want to do some addition, subtraction, multiplication, like that, mathematical operations, logical operations, in the APU system, you can do it with the help of the macros. Okay. Yeah. Let me add the points here for convenient purpose. Macros maybe we can use for calculations. In the macros itself, we have advanced macros also. They have advanced macros also. With these advanced macros, we can perform using advanced macros. We can perform complex calculations. Then macros are executed either directly by the user in interactive planning or automatically at a predefined point during a background job. In time, sorry. Which means macros are executed either directly by user, which means that we can create the macro in the API, and these macros we can execute it directly. We can execute directly, or user also can execute directly in the entire demand plan itself only. Or instead of executing directly, we can schedule the job also by adding a macro activity. We can schedule the complete macro activity in the background at a particular time for specified intervals. Okay, we can execute the macro directly, or we can execute it in a background whenever you want to execute it at particular certain point of time. If you want to execute, we can schedule it in the background. These options we have with respect to macros. Okay. Another point is macros are normally used are normally created under a specific planning book and data view level. Okay, which means that macros are normally created under a specific planning book and data view level. It means that we have to create a macro under a particular planning book and data view level only. If you have a planning book and data view, if you want to create a macro for the particular planning book and data view, then only we have to create a planning book for the particular planning book data view. Without planning book and data view, it's not possible to create a macro. Which means that first of all, we had to create a planning book and data view. Then, if you want to put the macros, we have to create a macro, and under whichever planning book and data view, if you want to put this macro, we have to continue with that. The next Types of macros. We have different types of macros. Default macro. So types of macro for default. Start macro. Level change macro. Exit macro. These 4 types macros we have. Let me give brief discussion of the one by one. Then at the time of comparison, I will show you what's the use of this default thing. Okay. Whenever you load the selections in planning book and data view, system calls default macro. Okay, this is our default macro. Start macro. Whenever you enter an planning interactive planning and loading the selections from planning book and data view. System calls start macro. Yeah, both default and start macro will work at the time of loading the selections. But the main difference between start and default macro is uh, if you load the selections, the default macro will call. If it once comes out, that means if you do any changes, it means that in that particular planning and data in that particular selections only, if you do any changes, default will work. Start macro at the time of loading the selections only, it will work. The time of loading the selections, if you want to run the start macro, you had to load the selections every time, then only it has to work. But in the default macro, if you assign the macro as default, if any values get changes, then it's automatically the macro will work. That is the main difference between the default and start macro. Level change. Level change. Drill up and drill down. The time drill up, drill down. System calls level change macro, which means that drill up means nothing but the aggregation disaggregation. If you want to see the data, if you want to see the planning book data, planning book and data view data with respect to the disaggregation levels, if you disaggregate, the time of disaggregation, if you assign the macro to level change, it will work. During that like disaggregation time, the macro will work. Okay, exit macro. Exit macro. The time of save the data, system calls exit macro. Okay, these are types of macros. Uh, let's come to the configuration part. Yes, the T code to create a macro is //sapo advm. Okay, this is a macro, and at the initially I told that plan, macro creation is particular for the planning book and data view level. That means for a particular data planning book and data view level only we are going to create the macro. First of all, we have to check for which planning book we had created. Normally, our planning book is GAPU underscore UPL. In this planning, we created the planning book. We created one planning book, GAPU underscore UPL. In this planning book, we are going to create a macro. Yeah, this is the planning book which I created, and these are the database we already. These are database weekly, monthly, and month and year. In that, I am selecting this. GAPU. Here, I already created some default macros. Some macros. Uh, um, okay. Uh, Let me open the planning book. Yeah, this already I created the macro. In again, I'm going to create the macro here. This macro. Um, we created a macro to calculate the total forecast. Total forecast is equal to forecast plus GAPO from plus manual corrections. Okay, and one more macro is coloring the total forecast macro, and auxiliary key figures we created. First, before going to start a macro, first of all, I'm going to delete this macro. Okay, I'm not delete this macro. First of all, I'm going to deactivate this macro. Why? Because I already created the macro for this planning book and data view. If I want to create a new thing, first of I have to come from the first step onwards. That means creation and MPOS, creation in planning area, creation in the planning book and data view, CVCs, key figures. These are things I had to spend that much. I had to spend more time on these things. Instead of doing all those things, first of all, I'm going to bring this to normal state. Which means that first of all, I'm going to cancel deactivate. I'm going to deactivate my all my all macros which I created. Inactive, inactive. Save, save. Yes, yes. Then check now. Load the planning book again. Oh, nothing is there. Okay. Let me delete this one also. Then we get exactly clear idea. Distribute. Total forecast. See, I make it as 0. Total forecast is 0. Nothing in none of the values are there. Let me delete this one also. Why I had to keep simply. Okay. I saved the values also. Then now I'm going to start to create a macro. Here what I'm doing. First of all, the steps to create a macro is macro, new macro type. If you see if it's collective macro means it's a combination of 2 to 3 more than two macros. It's nothing but collective macros. These things we are going to use in the complex situations. But now I'm going to move with the simple calculations. Uh, this assign button. Okay, I will tell it later. It's a assign button. Okay, continue. Then select a step option. In the step, write the description. Total forecast. Total forecast calculation. Total forecast. If you want to, the total forecast calculations has to perform for future periods. That's why here I'm selecting for the, if you, if you select the total here means it will select the complete past, it selects the past data also. If you, this this calculation is performed for future, that's why I'm going to select only the future period only. Otherwise, you can select it from directly from the user defined also. In the user defined, you have to represent the date. For 24 months, okay. Continue. Then next, what is the thing I had to do? The next thing is total forecast is equal to, let me come to this point. I'm going to create macro with a total forecast is equal to forecast plus manual correction plus promotions. Okay. Total forecast key figure is equal to forecast key figure plus manual correction key figure plus promotional key figure. For this, I have to create a macro. First of all, what I'm doing, I created a macro. I created a step. In the step, in the step, I am given the range. That means up to what range, up to what periods the value has to calculate. Okay, you see here, this is the step name from where, from when to when, from 1 2021 to 12 2022 for 24 months. This has to be worked. Then next, row. In the row itself, row is nothing but here the key figures. It will display the key figures automatically. If you select the row, it will, here we get the our default of our key figures which we created here. The key figures are going to be displayed here. Now I'm going to create a macro for the total forecast. Total forecast from when, from 1 2021 to value change. Yeah, it's a value change. Here we have options like value change, value change with following fixing, value change with preceding fixing, adjustment of level fixing, adjustment of levels. These different types we have. These are here we're going to calculate the arithmetic calculation. That's why I'm going here selecting the value change only. If you want to do with the decimal points, decimals like that, if you have to follow, then we had to select this value change with following fixing, value change with preceding fixing, like that we had to do that. But now I'm selecting only the value change. Adopt. Okay. Total forecast is equal to row. Not up. Okay, next step. Create a next level. So focus is equal to forecast plus from where you get this plus options, from operators. From operators you get this plus operations. Append plus ZAP of promotions plus manual corrections. Okay. You see here total forecast is equal to forecast plus ZAP of plus manual corrections. If you see here, if I if, if I drag and drop this option, we have get the options like insert and append. Append, which means that it's create a line, which means that it's in the same level. Same level. Append, which is another same level, which means that, see, if total forecast is not total forecast, if a total forecast is equal to forecast plus ZAP plus manual corrections, this operator functions has to be come under the under in a single level only, in the single line only. That's why we have selected the append option. Okay. We create a macro, then activate, generation completed, save it. Yes. Now check the results in the entertainment plan screen. Okay. some. I'm sorry. Yeah, what a mistake is I didn't put this macro. Here I forgot to assign this to default. Okay, save it. Microservices. Yeah, now the values there. Previously values are not there. If you see, total forecast is called forecast plus CA plus manual promotions. After creation of the macros, we have to assign it to any level. Yeah, I assign this macro default macro. Previously, it's not the results will not display. Why? Because I didn't assign to anything. That to default or level change or start or exit. I didn't assign to any type of the macro. After assigning this macro to the default, then I get the results in the internet demand planning screen. It is mandatory to assign the macro to any type of once we activated that. Okay. Then next is yes, color for the total forecast. I'm going to create the next macros. New macro, same time, no issues. Okay. Yeah. Color. Forecast. Step. I want to color this macro for complete periods. Not only for complete for all periods. I have to maintain the color for the macro to identify to identify the was the yeah, to identify the it is a total forecast key figure to identify for the purpose I'm going to adding the color. Okay. Just take the row total forecast. Now here I am going to add the color only for the key figure. I would like to put the color. Here I am not maintaining any value for that. Here change mode. Here I am going to selecting the attribute change. Okay. Previously what we selected here value change. The value change is only for the values. If you want to do the calculations, if you want to get the values, this is the value change options we had selected. Here I am going to select the attribute change option. Attribute change option, which means that apart from the values. Okay. Operator is equal to row underscore p to maintain colors. To maintain colors for the particular key figure, we have an operator called row underscore pg. Row underscore PG. With this with this we can add the color, which means we can, if you want to maintain any color to the particular figure with this operator, we can do the we can add the colors. And in the row underscore page, in the brackets we have to put the numbers. So if you want, yeah, I would like to put the green color. Otherwise, I will, and I have to use a purple color. You can select the color palette. Yeah, I'm going to select color code. The automatic set is 12. 12. Activate. Some error is there. Okay. Select the thing. Okay. The field will be unknown, but there is this field the similar name. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. What is the issue here is here I'm going to select the, see if I don't select here anything. I would like to go with the green color. Accept. Then it says that selected color has color code 12. Just mention the color code as 12. But mention the color code here, we have to maintain the spaces. Space 12 space. Continue. Activate. Yes. So now save it and make it as a default. I told you once it's activated, we have to put in the any type of a macro. So here I'm selecting. Here I'm putting it as a default macro. So come back. Yes. Just load the planning entered one more time. Yes. See, now you get the colors. Okay, like this, we can create a macros. Uh-huh. Let me come one by one the alt field switch. Yeah, let me discuss about one by one step here. The first step macro. This is the first. This is the step. This is the initial step where if you want to start the macro, first of all you had to start from the macro from this option. Just drag the option macro. Just drag and drop. Here it will give the description. Here assigned push button, which means that see, I already told that in the initial time we can create a we can execute in macro interactively, or we can execute it by the background job. Okay, if user want to execute the macro interactively, if user want to execute macro interactively, here what I'm doing here, I'm just assigning one any button here. That means that if if I whatever button I selected here, it gets reflected into the entire demand planning screen. If I click on that if I click that button in the entire demand planning screen, the macro will get executed automatically. Okay. For example, things. Okay. Okay. See here. Let's negative copy. Okay. I already created one macro copy history to auxiliary key figures, which means that whatever the history values are available, it has to copy it in these two key figures. If I select this, it automatically executed here. Okay. Like this, we can execute the macro interactively. This one, this can be done, and this can be performed with the help of these things. If you select the choose button, if it's first of all you have to put the assign button. The next step is baddie. Baddie or user exit macro, which means that baddie or user exit macro means if you want to create an if you want to develop a macro instead of if you want to develop a macro, if develop a new macro, we can perform with this baddie and user exit macro, which means that it's a development, new development. It's a new development which has to be done with the help of ABAP team also, the ABAP teams. The next step. Immediately create after immediately creating the macro, then we should take the step. In the step, we have to given from which period to which period, from which period to which period. By one these changes. Okay. The next step is these are the conditional planning table. Okay, this control statement is nothing but in the C language we know that the if control statements, if else if, these are the control statements we have, which means that if you want to use the any conditional situations at that time we use these control statements. Okay. For example, let me delete this. This is the macro. So if you see this, I created a macro to calculate the negative forecast, which means that in the total forecast, if any negative values are there in the total forecast key figure, any negative values are there, it will generate an alert. Okay, it will generate an alert. I created a macro for that. Here, what it sees is if control statement. This is the step. Under this step, I just put the control statement if condition total forecast is less than 0. I put the condition. I started the control statement. In the control statement, I put the condition if total forecast is less than 0. Then what I have to do? Alert. You get an alert message. Get an alert message. Okay. End. Control statement is get end. Control statement start. Control statement end. In this between, we created conditions and put an operators. Put an alert. Okay. In situations, we use this control and condition statements. This planning table. Planning table means here. If you want to do the calculations for any key figures, for example, I would like to go for the, see in this example itself only, total forecast. If total forecast, just I die on the row, it will take the key figure for which key figures we are going to do the changes. Yeah, for this, for the total forecast, if total forecast is less than 0, then generate the alert. Like that, like for column also we can perform. Column means here for particular period. If you want to do perform for particular period, then you can do it with the help of these things. Okay. This auxiliary table, there is nothing difference between the planning and auxiliary table. The main difference between planning and auxiliary table is the planning. Here the planning table, whatever the changes is there, it's going to save in the database. But in the auxiliary table, it will not go to save in the database. It will act as a mirror image. mirror image. That at that particular instance only it will show the changes. After that, once you come back from this come out from the screen, and once if you enter into the screen again, it will not show the changes. So what's the use of this auxiliary table? Means it will not save in the database. For the transparent purpose only, we are going to use these auxiliary tables. Okay. The next is the operator and functions. As we see in the time of creation of total focus macros. Let's see. See, if you in the operators we have different functions like plus, minus, division, less than, does not equal to, less than, not equal to, equal to, greater than, equal to, absolute. These many operations we have. These many operations we have. To go detail about these operations one by one, just search in the SAP help, the SAP help online portal. There we find that each and every functionality of this operator. Okay, here, but we are not going to use here. We are not going to use all these things. We are going to use some required only. But if you want to go to if you want to know about all these functionalities, just search in the SAP help. The SAP help you get all the about this. What are the use of this operations, and when we have to use operations like that. Okay. Functions. If you want to use a functional statements, you can perform with this with the help of this element alert. I already discussed that in the alert. To generate an alert, we are using this thing. Process message also the same functionality of the alert. Action box document. If you want to mail somebody, we can do it from with this option. Okay. This is about the elements of the macros, and whatever macro we created, it get to be saved here in the macros report. We can see what are the key figures available for that particular Planebook and data view. We can see here, and here types of macros. Once we activate the macros, we should have to assign the macro to any one type of macro. If you didn't assign, the macro will not execute in the entire dimension. Okay. Then next is the clipboard. If whatever we copied, clipboard is nothing but whatever we copied, it will get to be displayed here. Okay. This is about the macros. Whatever I discussed today in this class, in this session, this is about the simple macros, simple calculations. But in the real time, we will face the different calculations, but different calculations and different complex calculations we face. But the way to create a macros is this. What I discussed in this, that is the way. That is only the way. That is only the process we have to create a macros. Here the difference is the operation. Operation is somewhat different. It will depend on the project by project. Okay. This is about the project. This is about the macros from my end. Thank you.